Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone. Welcome back to my class. So today I'm going to share with you some tips on how to answer English paper 2 part 3. And the question that I choose is story writing. Okay, why did I choose story writing? Even before this, in the old SPM format, I always advise my students to choose the narrative essay. So narrative essay is basically story writing. Okay, there are a few reasons. Basically because I think it is easy. Alright, is it really easy? Okay, why? Because this is my argument. Okay, there's no specific format. Okay, it is a free writing. You can write whichever way you wish. Okay, so in one way it is quite easy, and then the tone is very up to you. You can, write whatever you want to write about. And then because of that, students can be creative. Alright, there's no limit. You can try whatever you want to try. Okay, and then there are a lot of techniques that you can choose from. Okay, and then these techniques is very helpful because you can practice and memorize the techniques, and you can keep on using the same thing in your essays. Okay, which can actually be very handy, very helpful. Okay, and then this is the strongest point. Okay, believe it or not, we all have stories to tell. Okay, we have been telling stories our whole life. We tell stories to our parents, we tell stories to our friends, we tell stories to our teacher. So there is always something to talk about. So it is actually already in our blood. So you just have to have courage to try something new. Okay, and talk about things that you have not talked about before. Alright, so next is how to write a good story. So there are some tips that I would like to share with you, but the most important thing is not a tip. The most important thing is actually the structure. Okay, a good story has solid structure. Okay, we can see the development of the story until the end. So let's take a look at the elements that is involved in this structure. The first thing is the background. Okay, we have to learn the background of the character, the place, as well as the time setting. Alright, that is the basic thing that you have to write about, that you have to introduce in your essay. And then the character that you write about happen to have a problem. Okay, that character happen to have a conflict, a problem. So that is when the situation, the storyline becomes rougher. Okay, you can see here it is not an easy climb. So they have problem, and there are a lot of bad things that happens to them. So that is how you develop a good story. And then after that is the most interesting part, the climax. Okay, basically in my opinion, I think a good climax should I think a good climax should make the readers feel a strong sense of emotion. Okay, it's either them saying, "Oh no, why is this happening?" or "Oh, thank God it happened," or maybe, "Oh, why?" I don't know, a strong emotion, right? It could be something tragic, it could be something sad, it could be something shocking, it could be something that makes people feel angry, or it could even be a happy situation, right? But the emotion is the strongest here. People will want to read more. Okay, that is the characteristic of a good climax. And then, so after the conflict is the following action. This is basically how the problem is solved. Right, tadi kat sini dia ada masalah. Lepas ni kat sini paling suspend, paling orang nak tahu apa akan jadi lepas ni. So now yang terjadi tu adalah masalah dia diselesaikan. So it goes downhill from here. Okay, and then alright, and then the last one is the resolution. Okay, basically for resolution, lepas masalah tu dah selesai, we should be able to see the impact of the incident of the story to the character. Apakah kesan yang berlaku kepada karakter? So the easiest way to do this is to write some lesson. Okay, what has the character learned from the story? Daripada apa yang berlaku tu, apa yang dia belajar? Okay, then here you can use any quotes like, practice makes perfect ke. Ikutlah apa yang karakter tu belajar daripada kejadian yang berlaku. So it is not actually that difficult. Dia punya plot tu simple je. Kenalkan watak, and then watak tu ada masalah. Lepas tu semua masalah tu jadi makin teruk. And then masalah selesai, dan apa yang watak tu belajar daripada kejadian tersebut. Alright, so now let's take a look at this story. This is from Titanic. Okay, I stole this from Sir Asai punya slides. Alright, so basically at the beginning of the story, we are introduced to the main characters, Jack and Rose. Okay, and they are in a ship, a very big ship called Titanic. And when the time is many years ago, I cannot remember the exact year, but never mind. Okay, step number 2. What happened is they began to fall in love. However, the problem is nobody likes it. Okay, everyone was against their relationship, so that is the problem. Okay, and then number 3 is the climax. This is the scene where people feel like, oh my goodness, what will happen next? Right, it is the most suspenseful when the Titanic hits the iceberg and then it splits in two and began sinking. And then number 4, how the problem is solved. Tadi dia jatuh cinta kan, and then semua orang tak setuju kan. Masalah tu selesai bila Jack mati. So Rose survived, Jack did not. And then number 5, the resolution, we get to see the old Rose. So that is Rose. Okay, and Rose is telling the story about her relationship with Jack. So nampak tak, even cerita yang famous pun still guna plot development yang sama. So this is the basic structure of a good story. Alright, so now let's see. Can we apply the same structure to answer exam format question with the exam format? Alright, so this is the first question. Your teacher has asked you to write a story for a school magazine. The story must have the title, A Kind Deed. Your story should include a description of the kind deed, how the person felt after carrying out the kind deed. Write your story. Okay, so what is the meaning of the phrase kind deed? Okay, perbuatan yang baik. So cerita tu mestilah berkaitan tentang orang yang buat benda baik. So it is not that complicated. Right? Dalam cerita tu kena description of the kind deed. Maksudnya benda baik apa yang dia buat tu. And then how the person felt, perasaan. So not that many requirement. Kena soalan dia tak banyak pun. So you can goreng anything that you want asalkan ada perbuatan baik dalam cerita tu dan ada perasaan dalam tu. Alright, so let's take a look at the example. Alright, this is the example of the plot for that story. So number 1, we are introduced to the character. Okay, who? We are talking about a new student, Mariam. And then where is it? So the setting is from the classroom going to the canteen. Why? Because it is recess time. So this is the background of the story. And then number 2, the problem. What is the problem? You saw Mariam leaving the canteen, but she was empty-handed. Dia tinggalkan kantin tapi tak bawa apa-apa. So you were puzzled. Kamu tertanya-tanya, kenapa? Dia pergi kantin awal tapi dia balik, dia keluar pun awal tapi tak bawa apa-apa. And then you determined to find out. Kamu nak tahu kenapa. Kamu nak menyiasat pasal apa Mariam jadi macam tu. So number 3, the climax, you found her and then she explained to you that she left her purse at home. So strong emotion kat sini apa? The strong emotion here is because you could relate to her situation. The loneliness, she is a new person. Right, takkanlah budak baru nak pinjam duit dekat kawan. So you can understand that situation because you used to be a new student too. So dekat sini perasaan tu strong lah because you can relate to her. Okay, and then after that, the solution is you lend her RM5, bagi dia pinjam RM5. And then you join other classmate dekat kantin and then you eat together and then you chat happily. And then habis cerita dia. Alright, so number 5, resolution is the lesson. Right, apa perubahan? Impact dulu. Impact yang berlaku kepada karakter tersebut. So here, dia new student. Right, she doesn't have any friends. But after the incident, she thanked me and my classmates. And then she felt grateful because all of us are very welcoming. Dia dah dapat kawan dah dekat sini. Right, and then, I pula, what do you feel? Because you had lent her RM5. So you feel pleased and contented. Rasa senang hati, rasa gembira lah. right? Because you are able to do something good for her. Alright, so nampak tak? Plot dia sama je. Very simple. Masalah dia simple je. Masalah dia lupa nak bawa duit. Alright, let's take a look at another question. So this time, the title is Practice Makes Perfect. Okay, and then in your story, you should include what kind of practice you did. Apakah latihan yang kamu buat? And then what you achieved after the practice. Okay, apa yang kamu capai? Apakah latihan yang kamu buat? So these two must be included in the story. So this is the sample outline. So it starts with number 1, about a timid 13-year-old cheerleader. Okay, and then the setting, the place is at school. So katakanlah, this is just an example, right? We don't have cheerleading team here, but let's say you are a timid girl. Okay, timid tu tak confident, takut. Okay, that is it. And then, what is the conflict? You wanted to be a good cheerleader, but you have terrible eyesight problem, mata rabun. Right? So, it is very difficult for you to do things correctly because you cannot really see clearly. Right? So, apa yang kamu buat adalah you spend more time practicing compared to other people. Okay, let's say you can give example of the practice that you did, backflip ke apa, I don't really know. You have to find the example. Or maybe other people practice only until 5 p.m. but you stayed there at the school hall and keep on practicing until 6 or 6:30 p.m. every single day. Right, so you practice more compared to your friends. So the climax is when you are chosen as the head cheerleader. So this part you could make it a bit more surprising. For example, maybe your teacher, my coach called me. I was so nervous. I did not know what he will say to me. And then he told you that you got the job. You got the post, the position as the head cheerleader, and then you felt over the moon. You felt very happy. Okay, that is the strong emotion here for number 3. And then number 4, what happens after that? What is the solution? You are in charge of choreographing and overseeing other cheerleaders because you are their head, right? So you are in charge of a lot of things now, which is good to you. And then number 5, so this is actually what you achieve. Okay, becoming the head cheerleader is what you achieve. And then the closure, the impact from a timid young girl here, from a timid girl, you become a confident person. And then you are also able to transform the team to be one of the best squads in Asia. Kononnya lah, you can create your own story, right? You can write anything you want. You can be anyone you want. Alright, moving on. So this is another question. Practice 3. Have you ever played a prank of a joke? It shouldn't be off here, it should be all. Have you ever played a prank or a joke on anyone? Pernah tak kenakan sesiapa? Okay, we would like to hear about it. So your story should include why you played the prank or joke. Kenapa buat macam tu? Who was involved? Siapa yang kena tu? And what happened? Apa yang berlaku? Apa yang kamu buat? So not that difficult. Let's take a look at the ideas here. Number 1, you introduce first. My older sister and I, we are both at home, and then we are struggling with our PDPR, right? And then the problem is we only have one computer, and then we have to take turns using the computer, and I couldn't finish my assignment, right? Because my sister said that she is in university and she deserves more screen time compared to me, right? And then I made some plans, and then I waited for her to go to the kitchen, and I did something to the computer, okay, as a prank to her. Okay, but what is it? I have not stated yet. Kat sini biar suspense dulu. And then at the climax, what happened is my sister returned to the computer, and then I waited patiently for her response. Okay, not long after that, she left, and then she told me that I could use the computer. And the strong emotion is I am feeling accomplished. Rasa berjaya sangat-sangat waktu tu. Rasa seronok. Right? Because your prank is successful. Okay, and then number 4, how you solve it. So you repeated the same thing for a few days, and finally you are able to finish your assignment. Sorry, not you, my assignment. Okay, and the truth is you actually covered the laser sensor on the mouth with sticky paper. You know, behind under the mouse there is the laser sensor, and then you just put some sticky notes down there, and then your sister still had no idea, and then you giggled happily, you were happy and you found it funny. Okay, so this is another example. Simple storyline. Nampak tak? The keyword, the most important thing that you have to remember for story writing is you have to make sure you have a direct storyline. A short, a direct and straightforward storyline. Jangan buat jalan cerita yang berbelit-belit macam drama pukul 7. No. Right? It should be direct. Ada 5 step sahaja. 1 masalah, climax, selesai masalah. Right? That is the safest way. Okay, and then you have to make sure you fulfill question requirement. Okay, for fulfilling question requirement, nak tunjuk sikit yang practice 1 tadi. Okay, feeling. Right. Thank me and my classmate, grateful, welcoming. So this one is Mariam. Right? This is, we are talking about Mariam. And however, pleased and contented is you, the one who helped Mariam. Pasal apa kena masuk pleased and contented? Because in the in the question requirement, kamu kena tulis how the person felt after carrying out the kind deed. Dia minta perasaan orang yang melakukan perbuatan baik, bukan Mariam. So you have to be very careful with the question requirement. Alright, so now let's continue with some writing elements, how to make your writing even better. Right? So the first thing that you have to remember is to always start with a hook. Okay, a hook is some lines that you can use to grab people's attention. Right? Untuk, you know, hook tu kan mata kail. You have to hook people's attention. So how can you do it? There are a few ways. These are some examples only. You can start by asking a question, or you can start with a dialogue, or you can start with a description of a character or a setting, or you can use repetitive words, or you can describe feeling, or you can even use sound effect. Okay, let me show you some examples. Okay, this is the examples of asking a question and dialogue. Okay, you can start your essay with, is that her? I whispered to myself. Right, it creates suspense. Kenapa dia mula dengan soalan macam ni? Siapa dia? What are we talking about? So people will want to read more. Or, Rick, are you listening to me? Mr. Mike's husky voice jolted me back to reality. Right, di permulaan cerita tu, dah kena tengking. Alright, so these are 2 examples, and then you can also use repetition of words. For example, unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable. I could not believe what I was seeing in front of me. Right? Biar betul. Macam tak boleh percaya apa yang saya nampak depan saya. Right? Simple, but it is catchy. Okay, and then the next example is on description of a character. Okay, her long golden hair followed her as her lean body walked gracefully into the classroom. Her big brown eyes twinkled as she returned my smile. Ni ayat pertama. Right? Kita baca je terus cerita pasal seorang perempuan yang cantik. So kita rasa macam ala nak baca lagi. Or we talk about the man. A tall, muscular man walked in the doorway. His red hair, freckles and thick moustache stood out for sure. Okay, kita cakap pasal character. And then we can also start with a description of a strong feeling. My heart stopped the moment our eyes met. I froze. Should I smile at her? Should I play it cool? Before I could even decide, a beautiful smile formed on her cute chubby face. I swear I could feel my face burning in an instant. I blushed. Right? Very interesting introduction. You feel like you wanted to know more. What will happen between you and the cute chubby girl? Alright, or you can also start with a sound effect. Ring, my alarm went off. Okay, alarm saya berbunyi. Or Nino, 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 the ambulance overtook our car. Right? Simple but very interesting way of writing. Okay, the second tip is this. Said is dead. Okay, do not use the word said anymore in dialogues. Okay, a good story contains dialogues. Kena ada dialog. Tapi janganlah asyik ulang perkataan said berkali-kali. Right, these are just some examples. For example, berapa kali nak sebut example? Okay, let's say if you want to ask question, you can use the word ask, you can use the word beg, you can use the word inquired, requested. For example, Mom, can I go to Linda's house tonight? I ask. Okay, or Mom, please let me go to Linda's house. I beg. Can you see the difference? Right. Kalau requested, can I have that? Can I have a cup of tea, please? I requested. Kita minta. Or you can choose this one to answer a question. Okay, for example, yeah, of course you can. I answered. Or there's no way I can let you do that. My mom replied. Alright, and then these are some of the examples of loud response and quiet response. For example, oh no, why did he do that to me? She bellowed. Right? Or exclaim or scream, or this should be scream, typo, sorry. Or shouted. Bolehlah, semua perkataan ni boleh digunakan untuk menggantikan perkataan said. Alright, the next tip is show, not tell. Okay, to create an interesting story, writer show, not tell the readers about the people, places and things. Okay, 3 benda ni kamu boleh show. Showing helps the reader see the story in their minds. This is actually a very good element. When we read, we do not want to read facts. Kita bukan nak baca karangan fakta. Right, bila kita baca cerita, we want to imagine. We want to feel like we are there in the story. We know what the characters is feeling. We know how the place looks like. So we have to show it to our readers. So these are some examples for feelings. Okay, Brian was angry. This is telling. Kita bagi tahu Brian marah tu. Right, tapi kalau show, Brian pursed his lips and clenched his fist into tight balls. Try as he might, he could not contain himself. Within second, he erupted like a volcano. Okay, nah abang kata marah tu, meletup macam gunung berapi. Or Bella was shocked, terkejut. This one is telling. Oh tu, Bella terkejut tu. Or we can write, Bella couldn't help herself. Her jaw dropped to the floor, tenganga mulutnya, as her eyebrows shot towards the ceiling. You know, when you were surprised, eyebrows tu apa benda? Eyebrows tu kening. Your kening macam naik ke atas. Shot towards the ceiling. So you describe and people can imagine, which is good. Okay, the next thing is you have to also use adjective and adverbs. Adjective kata sifat. Adverbs is kata, I'm not sure kata apa. But let's see the examples. Adjective is kata sifat. Kata sifat is used to modify nouns. Kita bagi sifat kepada kata nama, kepada benda. Okay, for example, yang saya underline ni, these are all adjective. Instead of saying, I heard a scream, saya dengar satu jeritan. I heard a loud scream. I entered the room, saya masuk bilik itu. I entered the quiet room, saya masuk bilik yang sunyi itu. Nampak tak? When we add adjective, kita boleh bayang macam mana suasana dekat bilik tu, macam mana perasaan budak tu, happy boy ataupun slow car, instead of tulis benda tu saja. So this is a very good technique to practice. Alright, the second one is adverbs. Adverbs adalah perkataan-perkataan yang kita tambah ly kat belakang ni. Ly ni maksudnya dengan. Right, dengan apa? So for example, my brother laugh, abang saya ketawa. Or my brother laughed loudly, abang saya ketawa dengan kuat. Or she peeked quietly, dia mengendap dengan quietly, dengan senyap-senyap. My brother jumped happily, melompat dengan kegembiraan. Or walk slowly, berjalan dengan perlahan. Right? So adverbs is also very good to use in story writing because then only we can imagine the action. Alright, tip number 4 is to use interjection and sound effects. Okay, interjection is, saya tak tahu nak translate macam mana, but these are some examples of interjection. Okay, like, ooh, wow, meh, dah, muah, Alright, so these are some interjection boleh guna, especially in dialogues. Right? So it becomes interesting and we get to see the feeling of the character. For example, kalau dia guna meh, apa maksud dia? Apa perasaan dia bila kita guna meh? It shows lack of interest. Dia menunjukkan, alah tak minat lah benda tu. Meh, it's not that great. Okay? Or we can also use sound effect. So normally sound effect ni kita tengok dekat comics, right? When we read comic books, so there are a lot of sound effects. Make use of it. Okay? Make use of those words in your essay to make it interesting. Barulah orang boleh bayang apa yang mereka dengar waktu tu. Alright, and then the next tip is to use idioms, proverbs and quotes. Yang ni biasalah. For example, idiom simpulan bahasa. Casey is a pain in the neck. A pain in the neck, orang yang annoying, menjengkelkan. Or Linda is such a big mouth, mulut tempayan, tak boleh simpan rahsia. Right, so ini adalah idioms. Idioms means simpulan bahasa. Proverbs adalah peribahasa. Rome was not built in a day. There's no use crying over spilled milk. Action speaks louder than words. Never judge a book by its cover. Right? So ini semua simpulan bahasa. And then I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is a great way to end your essay. Sebenarnya sangat bagus kalau kamu boleh letak ini sebagai lesson dekat penghujung cerita. Maksudnya apa yang karakter tu belajar, apa impact kepada karakter tu. I learned that there's no use crying over spilled milk. Sesal dahulu pendapatan, sesal kemudian tiada gunanya. Right? Based on what had happened in the story. So yeah, try to use these things, these elements in your essay letter. Oh, alright. So that is it. The end of the slide. So I hope my explanation today is useful to you. What I have given you are just some examples. There are more examples because story writing is it's very interesting. A lot of people enjoy writing stories. So there are a lot of tips, a lot of techniques that you can practice. I only shared with you 5 tips today. We are going to practice this first, and then later, if we have the time, if we have the luxury of time, we might be able to practice something else. Okay, so yeah, if there are any questions, if there are any confusion, kalau ada bahagian mana yang tak faham, please ask me. Okay, do not just keep quiet. So yeah, I guess that is all for today. I wish you all the best and have a nice day. Bye. Assalamualaikum.